I'm Kirsten.
I'm Samantha Jo.
And I'm Maria, and we're part of the Athletic Training and Sports Medicine Department. And we're discussing the book Extreme Ownership, chapters 4 through 6.
So starting with chapter 4. Looks like we both have the same thing highlighted.
The exact same stuff.
Wow.
So the first thing we have highlighted is the first sentence on the principal discussion of the chapter 4. Ego clouds and disrupts everything. The planning process, the ability to take good advice, and the ability to accept constructive criticism.
And I really liked how it talked about admitting mistakes, taking ownership, and developing a plan to overcome challenges are integral, I don't want to say that, to any successful team. And I think, like, as athletic trainers, we have to own up to making our mistakes, as well as taking that ownership and then developing a plan to, like, be able to change those mistakes so they don't happen again.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you learn how to do is take that constructive criticism that the preceptors give you, because it's not like they're trying to be rude. It's just like, here's what we noticed that you lack. Like, this is what you need to get better on. So, like, you have that knowledge that, like, oh, this is where I struggle. And so you can work on getting better. It's not like a blow to your ego that, oh, you suck at this. But it's a, I want you to get better statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think also, like, with having your ego cloud your thought process and everything, you also get cocky, and whenever you're cocky, you think like everything you do is right, and whenever you're in that mindset, I think that prevents you from opening your getting accepting other opinions, because you're always set on your way's the right way, and so you'll sometimes listen to people, but you won't actually hear what they're saying.
You won't learn anything.
Yeah, and so I think that clouds the process of just learning more, and I think in this profession, everything is always evolving, so it's important to not get this ego that, like, this is the right way, my way is the right way, and kind of accept
But things change
as well.
Yeah. Because, like, what people did in the past in this profession no longer is what people do now for the exact same, like, scenario.
Yeah.
And you need to know that, like, because our profession is ever changing, you can't always be set in your ways. You need to, like, okay, this is what I'm good at, but someone down the line is going to get better at doing something else, and that might be the better way. So you need to learn from them, even if they're, like, quote unquote younger than you or less experienced. They know more than I do at this point.
Yeah. What's the next thing?
The other thing I kind of highlighted is kind of what we already talked about. It's like, we can't ever think we're too good to fail, or that our enemies are not capable, deadly, and eager to exploit our weaknesses. So, like, kind of how you said, like, we can't just be like, oh, I'm above you, and, like, I'm not going to listen to what you're going to say because I should have more experience, so I should know. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have the best idea, or I don't know.
I think it's important, like, even as we get older, we're going to come straight out of college and, like, know these new ways, but then as we get older, we're going to not know, like, there's going to be
more new information coming out.
So I think it's important to teach others from our experience, but also accept knowledge from these, like, students that don't necessarily know more experience-wise, but may know more as in the skill-wise.
Yeah.
I think what makes a great preceptor is not just, like, being able to teach a student, but it's also to learn from the student themselves, because you have preceptors coming from different programs, or preceptors who haven't been in school for a long time, so they don't know, like, what we learn. And I think not, like, letting that get in your head, but learning from what the student knows, because that will only make you better and more knowledgeable athletic trainer across the board.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I love about where I'm at now with soccer. I'm with Susie, and, like, I was doing rehab with one of the soccer girls the other day, and she's like, oh, I haven't learned some of the new, like, rehab skills. We should, like, sit down and talk about, like, what you've learned and, like, what I know. And then, like, one day we did that while we were just sitting out in practice, not doing anything anyways, and just talking about rehab and, like, what we learned all last year and everything. And I don't know, it was pretty cool to have just, like, have that conversation and like actually have knowledge behind it, because you know, just as a second year, you're like kind of like a chicken, like
You don't know anything.
I don't know
I don't
anything.
know what's going on.
I'm just here to
Yeah.
do what you tell me to. But then here we are as fourth years, like actually having the knowledge and the skills, so then you can have those conversations with your preceptor or an athletic
And it
trainer,
just
and they
kind of-
actually have value.
Yeah, and it goes to show just how far you've come, like
Mhm.
to be able
Yeah.
to take the knowledge that you've attained and like be able to teach somebody else.
Mhm.
Because I think that's something that's really hard for people to do is like, yeah, I know this, but it's taking that knowledge and like throwing it out to other people so that they can learn it too. Because not a lot of people learn like the neurodevelopmental sequence that we do.
Mhm.
Not a lot of people learn the fascial lines, and I think those are two really cool rehab techniques that like you need to understand so you can bring it forth to other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I've had preceptors who like did want to like teach me stuff, and then I've also had the ones that like, okay, we're not doing anything, like I don't really care like if we do anything, and it's just kind of like if you want to be like a leader, you should be wanting to teach your
Take those
students.
down times when
Yeah,
you have
and
nothing going
utilize
on
them.
and be like, okay, what do you want to work on?
Yeah.
I think that is the best preceptor, is the ones
Yeah.
who won't just let you sit there bored, but like test your knowledge and lets you expand on it.
Yeah.
For sure. The next thing I had highlighted is kind of relevant to me this semester whenever I look at the overall staff at AMR. It says, when personal agendas become more important than the team and overarching mission success, performance suffers and failure ensues. And I don't know, I can just see, being at AMR so much this semester, I can just see all the preceptors that their main focus is their job and how that reflects in their athletes. And then some of those preceptors where their main focus is elsewhere and how that reflects in their athletes as well, in their performance. And it kind of just makes me look at it and be like, okay, whenever I graduate, like it's either this or you can't have like 5 other jobs and be focusing on
Yeah.
something else,
Athletes
because it
know-
definitely reflects in your performance.
athletes know when you don't care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it shows in like when your rehab too.
Yeah. And it shows within your teammates too, or the people that you work with, because
Yeah.
whenever they see that they're giving their all and this is their main focus, and then they see that you're not like giving it your everything, then they kind of have those negative feelings towards you because
Yeah.
you know, why
They
are
know.
you here if this
So
isn't?
why am I supposed to go to you if something's going on with me?
Yeah.
If
It
I
seems
can already
like
tell
don't
you
care.
don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important.
That's all I had for that chapter.
Okay.
The last thing I had, it just says confidence in our skills, or we are confident in our skills and are eager to take on challenging missions that others cannot and aren't willing to execute. And I think this is important because, like, I don't know, like when Jim was talking to us the other day and he's like, what sets you apart from everyone else? I think this is a big thing that can set you apart from everyone else, is if you're confident in your skills and you're eager to take on these challenging missions, even that others cannot or will not, like they're not willing to execute. And it doesn't mean that you're confident in your skills and you know that you're going to get it right every time. It's just that you're confident enough that you're going to take on the challenge, whether you're going to fail or succeed.
Yeah.
It's important that you at least try. And I think that that's what can set you apart, because there's a lot of athletic trainers or whoever in the medical field that will see something and immediately will go to someone else or immediately refer. Whenever I think that it will set you apart if you at least try, or you look into things, or you take a different perspective. I think that'll set you apart, where you're going the extra mile that nobody else will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree with
definitely not about being right all the time, because
No.
you're not going to be right all the time. You're gonna miss.
You're gonna fail.
You're gonna miss a diagnosis. You're gonna call it the wrong thing. You're going.
But
It's
that's
gonna
how you
happen.
learn.
But yeah, it's taking those being wrong and learning from it and growing from it. But it's about like, yes, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I accept that I was wrong, but I am confident that I'm gonna keep working on it until I won't make that same mistake.
Yeah.
And it's like accepting those failures as a growing time and
Yeah.
being confident in that. Yeah, I'm upset with myself, but I'm not gonna let this stop me.
Yeah, and I feel like whenever I mess up, like those are the times whenever I learn the most, and like
Yeah. For sure.
I never know where I'm going with my train of thought.
No one does. Want to talk about chapter 5 now?
Yeah.
Because we're on like 10 minutes.
Okay. So chapter 5 was about cover and move, which is about teamwork, basically.
Yeah.
And let's see what I got. And it says all elements within the greater team are crucial and must work together to accomplish the mission, mutually supporting one another for that singular purpose. So I kind of think that goes along the lines of like us as athletic trainers working with other healthcare professions like the physicians or like the EMS team to like provide the best care that we can for the athlete, because we can't just operate as one single profession. We all have to work together to be able to provide the best care.
And that was like that, especially where is communication comes a big role. You need to be able to communicate with the physician, with the surgeon, with the EMS team, with your coaches, your athletes, and the parents. Everyone is connected, and you need to be able to work together to get that best care, because if one end drops off, then the athlete is the one who suffers.
Absolutely. The thing I had highlighted was basically what we just talked about. It talks about if the teams operate independently or work against each other, the results can be catastrophic to the overall team's performance. So, kind of talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But y'all need to have like, if this is what happens, this is what each person on the team is going to do.
Yeah.
Like in the emergency care scenarios, you know, like if I have to spine board somebody who has head, who's doing that, who's calling 911, who's getting to grab EMS when they arrive, everyone needs to be on the same page, because if they're not, then spine boarding can go really wrong, and it can make and create a worse scenario than what is actually going on.
Yeah, which is why we go through our EAPs every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so important.
Next thing I had, it says it falls on leaders who continually keep perspective on the strategic mission and remind the team that they are part of the greater team in the strategic mission, and it's paramount. Why I highlighted that.
I know some of this.
But it's just kind of saying that it's like the leaders, like that head AT's job to make sure that everyone involved knows what's going on. So like
knows what's going on
with the students, like you know, like hey, I'm the leader of this. You guys, this is what I want you to do. And like, no, it's their job.
Yeah. Another thing I had highlighted was each member of the team is critical to success. So like I kind of saw that as like some professions might kind of think that they're maybe like as a physician they are higher up than us, but that doesn't make us less important because we're the ones that are there like on the field and whenever the injury happens. Yeah, we're the one that sees it and it reports right away, which is important to be able to communicate that to the EMS who like will communicate that to the physician, so like we're all important in the whole line of things.
Each has their own role, but none role is less important than the other.
Yeah. For sure. The last thing I had, it just says pointing fingers and placing blame on others contributes to further dissension. Did I say that right? Dissension? Yeah. Between teams and individuals. These individuals and teams must instead find a way to work together, communicate with each other, and mutually support one another. I think this is just very important because instead of placing blame on others and like pointing fingers on everyone, it kind of makes, like whenever you have a finger pointed at you, it kind of just makes you feel bad about yourself and kind of retract from the situation. And I think it's important instead of pointing fingers to just talk about like, okay, what went wrong, and instead of saying you did this wrong, it's like how could we have made this better? What could we have done differently instead of you?
Yeah, because it always makes you feel bad too.
Something kind of along the line with that is one day at Health Tracks, it was not going a great day for me. And I get really, really like frustrated with myself if I can't come up with an answer. And I also really don't like being actively watched if something's going on. And we had one patient, and it was like me, a GA, my preceptor, the patient, and the patient's mom. And my preceptor asked me a question, and I couldn't come up with an answer, and she just kept asking me, and I kept getting more frustrated because I just couldn't come up with the answer. And then I just felt stupid in front of all these people.
Yeah.
And I get really emotional when I get frustrated, so I stepped away and I just kind of started tearing up. And she my preceptor, she's like, hey, just walk away for a second, come back, and you're gonna be fine. So I come back and I take the patient through the exercises, and we finished. And I came up to her, I'm like, hey, I just want to say I'm sorry, like, that shouldn't have happened. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, no, it's fine. It was just, she's like, was it too many people watching you? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you know what? That's on me. She's like, she accepted blame for something that really wasn't her fault, but because she didn't know that I get emotional like that, like, she blamed herself for it, and she's like, and I will never do that to you again. Yeah. And I think that shows just a great leader to take something that small and put it on herself when she didn't have to. She could have been upset for me for just getting emotional.
Yeah. That's
So
all
what do you got?
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. So going on
6.
chapter 6. This was the simple.
Yes.
Talked about simplifying. Yeah, the first thing I had is it says simplifying as much as possible is crucial to success, and I think this is important in almost everything you do, but especially in telling a patient how to do exercises that is expected of them. Like for us, we know what we're wanting, we know how it should look, how it should feel and everything, but for them it's so brand new, they don't understand that simplifying it down like step by step, even if they're so small, could make a huge difference in the outcome. And I think that for me last year, like working with patients at Health Tracks, that was the first time that I actually was working like one-on-one with athletes. And so for me, you know, I did this stuff in class, everybody understood what we meant, and so it was just like zoom, 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 but then I would get some patients that literally had no idea. So then it made me think more, because I'm like, okay, how can I simplify this down more? How can I simplify this down more? So then I kind of understood the process of the exercises as well, because then I'm thinking critically on exactly what needs to happen, but breaking it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've learned that from experience at Health Track too. Like, if I were to tell you to do something, I could butcher it and you would still understand what I'm trying to tell you because we went through the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say, and I realized like it's taking those patients who have no clue, and you're like, oh crap, now what do I say? What do I do? And I end up showing them because sometimes like that visual is like, I got this, I can do that. And then that's where like that cueing. I've gotten so used to just cueing, so I'm like, I don't know how to say this, but that is like the simplest form. It's like, hey, I need you to contract that.
Or like pull your shoulder blades down to your back pockets. They're like trying to do this, and it's like
squeeze.
And they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Or it's like even breaking down the Turkish get-up.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I'm
that.
like,
First time I did that, it was kind of a disaster. So it's like, okay, you show them, but you still, even after you show them, like, it's such a complex movement that you're literally breaking it down by just like...
Step. Okay, step 1, roll your hip. Step 2, press up. And it's like, okay, this is what I want. Now squeeze this. Focus on this. And it's just taking it a step at a time because those things are just so complicated that even though we know what we're trying to do, they have no clue.
Yeah. And I even noticed like a difference from trying to like explain something to like a 10-year-old versus like a 40-year-old versus like a 70-year-old. Because they all interpret things differently, and like especially with the kids, I feel like the mirroring, like they really pick up on that.
Yeah, mirroring is so helpful for them. Because they're like, I got this now.
Yeah. And then that also tells you whenever you mirror or like you show them something and you don't do it correctly, and then they mirror you, and you're like, okay, that is what I did, but that's not what I want you to do.
Don't do that. Do that, but don't do that.
Yeah.
Do it better.
For sure.
I had plans and orders must be communicated in a manner that is simple, clear, and concise. Everyone that is part of the mission must know and understand his or her role in the mission and what to do in the event of like contingencies. So I was kind of thinking along the lines there of like, kind of how we were talking earlier, like with the EAP, like everyone knows what they're doing, and because if not everyone knows their role, then someone doesn't call 911 or no one goes to get the spine board, and then it's just chaos.
Yeah, I think it's important to set the roles before a situation like that ever happens, because if you have to waste time instructing everyone on what to do in this situation, then that's just critical time for them that could change the outcome. You know, it could go badly. And so whenever you're setting those EAPs, you go over with everyone that could possibly be there in that situation about what your instructions are going to be. Or right before every game, who is ever there, if this happens, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to do. I think the first time I ever saw that, for real, was whenever I was in football, or not football, I was a first year with hockey, and literally there was Dr. Carr there, and there was two upper level students, and before the game even started, we went over, in case somebody goes down and 911 needs to be called, I was to call 911, I was to tell them where to come in at, and I had to go grab them. And the funny thing was that literally the entire game, I was memorizing the address and what I would tell them and where I would go, and that just stuck in my head the entire time. And I think like it's just important to get all that down, because then I knew if they went out there and they gave me the signal, I knew exactly what to do, and there
And
wasn't
you're
time to
prepared
waste
for
it.
it.
Yeah.
Another thing I had highlighted was to ask questions that clarify when they do not understand the mission or key tasks to be performed. So I think it's important not to be afraid to ask questions when you don't understand something, especially like with athletic training. There's so many things that we're learning and don't understand, and sometimes we're just afraid to speak up and be like, "Hey, I don't know what that is,"
What did you
because
just do?
we don't want to be wrong. Because I don't know, we grew up in a society where like being wrong is bad, but that shouldn't be how it is, because as students, this is when we're learning, so this is the time to ask questions.
And that's the thing, that even when you're certified, you're still going to be wrong, and understanding you're going to be wrong. So like going and finding somebody and that knows a little bit more, and keep finding that person that knows a little bit more, but you're still going to have those times where you're going to be wrong, and that's okay, and continuously grow in your knowledge and continuously ask those questions, because it's only going to make you better.
Because no matter where we go, you know, we might graduate and not work in Springfield the rest of our lives, and not every athletic trainer is taught the exact same things. Like last semester, whenever I was at Health Tracks, the grad student Alex there was just learning how to FMS test. She didn't learn how to FMS test in her undergrad, so whenever she would be out there practicing, and we'd be talking about it, like there's some stuff that she didn't know, so then I would tell her, and it was kind of cool just because she didn't feel like embarrassed by it. And like for me, I feel like there's a lot of pride that comes with our program, and like any one of our grad students or our upper levels would be, I don't know, too embarrassed to ask questions about things that they should know. Where are they going with that? I don't know. But
along the lines to like take that pride aside and ask those questions, even if it's someone younger. Because it is coming into a whole new world with this program. Like we do FMS, we do NDS, we do factual lines, and that's not something that every program out in the country utilizes and understand.
Right. So then we might go out and get a job or to another grad program, and they might know something that we don't. But it's important to ask questions and get that information than just be embarrassed and not know.
And I feel like in our program we're throwing so much information, and then it also depends on like your clinical sides. Because like for me, I had a lot of rehab my second year, and then I was at high school for my whole third year. I was at a high school. And so now I'm back in rehab, and I'm like, wow, I haven't done rehab in a really long time. And so I kind of feel like I'm not quite as good at that, but asking questions has been helpful to be able to learn and to be able to utilize all of that. And
Absolutely.
I don't have anything else.
Nope. Fantastic.
option.
Right.